Eggs, for decades, they've been the poster child for cheap protein, the breakfast of champions, and the villain of cholesterol myths. But what if I told you, forget eggs, because there's another food, cheaper, more powerful, and it builds muscle faster even at 70. See, nutrition science has been hijacked by marketing. We've been sold superfoods and supplements, but the truth is often sitting right in front of us, ignored, because it's not sexy enough to sell. Today, I want to show you how one humble, everyday food can do what eggs and even expensive powders can't. And here's the kicker. It's not just for bodybuilders or athletes. Even at 70, even when muscle loss is supposed to be inevitable, this food flips the script. Because muscle isn't about vanity, it's about survival, metabolism, and longevity. And this food may just be the cheapest ticket to all three. When people hear the word protein, the first thing that comes to mind is steak, chicken, or maybe eggs if you're on a budget. The grocery store shelves scream it at you. High protein slapped on everything from granola bars to bottled water. But here's the thing, not all proteins are created equal. And the difference matters not just for bodybuilders flexing in the mirror, but for every single one of us, especially as we age. Muscle is your body's savings account. When you're young, you can spend it freely, climb stairs 2 at a time, sprint for the bus, haul groceries without breaking a sweat. But as the years pile on, you start making withdrawals without even realizing it. The medical term for this is sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. It's silent, slow, and devastating. And once you've lost enough, you don't just have less strength, you lose independence, you increase your fall risk, and you send your metabolism into freefall, which means blood sugar rises, fat stores climb, and chronic disease sneaks in the back door. So yes, protein matters, but let me be clear, the quality of protein matters even more. It's not about how many grams are on the nutrition label, it's about what those grams are made of. Proteins are chains of amino acids, like beads on a necklace. Your body needs 20 different amino acids to function, but only 9 are essential. Essential means your body can't make them. You've got to eat them. Think of it like Lego blocks. If you want to build muscle, you need all the right shapes in the box. Miss just one, and your muscle factory grinds to a halt. Now here's the kicker. Not every food delivers all 9 essential amino acids in the right amounts. Some are incomplete, some are unbalanced. Eggs have been held up as the gold standard because they tick most of the boxes. But there are cheaper, humbler foods out there that do the job even better. The food I'm talking about doesn't just contain all the essential amino acids, it delivers them in a ratio your body loves, especially as it gets older. That's the secret sauce, bioavailability. In plain English, it's not just what you eat, it's what your body can actually use. Let's look at an example. Whey protein derived from milk is one of the most bioavailable proteins on the planet. It's rich in leucine, the amino acid that flips the switch for muscle protein synthesis. Think of leucine as the ignition key to your muscle engine. Without enough leucine, you can shovel in all the protein you want and nothing happens. But with it, boom, your muscles get the signal to grow, repair, and hold strong. Eggs contain leucine, yes, but not in the concentration that this cheaper alternative does. And for older adults who naturally become more resistant to protein's anabolic effects, leucine becomes even more critical. Here's where science meets reality. Studies show that people over 60 need a higher threshold of leucine to trigger muscle growth compared to 20-somethings. That means your morning scrambled eggs, unless you're eating half a dozen, probably won't cut it. But a scoop of the right protein source can light up that muscle machinery like a Christmas tree. The result? Stronger legs, better balance, improved metabolism, all from something cheaper than a carton of eggs. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Cholesterol. For decades, eggs were demonized as heart attack bombs because of their cholesterol content. Then the pendulum swung the other way. Suddenly, eggs were redeemed as nature's multivitamin. The truth, as usual, lies somewhere in between. Eggs aren't poison, but they're not the magic bullet either. And for many people struggling with cholesterol, diabetes, or metabolic syndrome, they may not be the most efficient way to hit protein needs. Meanwhile, the food we're talking about has none of that baggage. No cholesterol worries, no skyrocketing prices, no industry-funded campaigns to convince you it's the perfect breakfast. It just sits quietly on the shelf, ignored, while we spend billions chasing supplements, powders, and superfoods. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Come on, doc. Protein is protein. If I eat enough, I'll be fine. Not quite. Imagine building a house with only nails, no wood, or only bricks, no mortar. You can pile them up, but the structure won't hold. Muscle is the same way. You need the complete set of amino acids in the right proportions at the right times. That's the definition of high-quality protein. And here's where the story gets even better. This humble, overlooked food isn't just about muscle. High-quality protein stabilizes blood sugar, improves satiety, and fuels your mitochondria, the little engines inside your cells. In other words, the same mechanism that helps you hold on to your biceps also helps you keep diabetes at bay and energy levels high. And in a world where half of adults are either diabetic or pre-diabetic, that's no small thing. So the bottom line, eggs are fine. They're not the enemy, but they're not the champion either. If you really want to preserve muscle, whether you're 30, 50, or 70, you've got to look beyond the carton. The science is clear. Protein quality matters more than protein quantity. And the cheapest, most effective muscle builder out there isn't the one with the glossy marketing campaign. It's the one hiding in plain sight, ready to fuel your body better than eggs ever could. Because at the end of the day, muscle is life. And life deserves more than good enough. It deserves the best fuel possible, even if it costs less than your morning coffee. We live in a world where eating healthy has become a privilege. Walk into any grocery store and you'll see it. Blueberries at $6 a pint. Grass-fed beef priced like gold. Protein bars that look like candy bars but cost 3 times as much. Somewhere along the line, we accepted the idea that health comes with a luxury tax. And yet the irony is, the cheapest foods in the store, the ones sitting quietly on the bottom shelf, no shiny labels, no celebrity endorsements, are often the most powerful for our health. Take protein, for instance. The fitness industry has done a masterful job convincing us that if you want to build muscle, you need their powders, their shakes, their subscription delivery kits, pay $50, $70, even $100 for a tub of premium protein blend with a label that looks like it belongs on a NASCAR car. But here's the truth. Your muscles don't know brand names. They don't care about glossy packaging. They care about amino acids, digestibility, and consistency. And the most effective protein source I'm talking about delivers all of that at a fraction of the price, cheaper than eggs, cheaper than chicken, cheaper than beef, and infinitely cheaper than those shiny tubs of miracle powder. Let's talk about eggs for a moment. They've always been considered the poor man's protein. A few decades ago, you could buy a dozen eggs for less than $1. It was the working class way to get nutrition on the plate. Fast forward to today, and eggs have become a volatile commodity. Prices swing wildly depending on the season, the supply chain, or the latest avian flu outbreak. I've seen a carton of eggs cost as much as a small steak dinner. That's not accessibility. That's roulette. Now contrast that with this other protein source. It's shelf-stable. It's produced at scale. It doesn't fluctuate wildly when a chicken catches the flu or when the marketing machine decides to jack up the price. You can walk into nearly any grocery store, big box chain, or even corner bodega and find it. No refrigeration required, no fancy storage, no worrying about expiration dates next week. For people living on tight budgets, seniors on fixed incomes, families trying to stretch every dollar, this matters. Accessibility isn't just about finding it on the shelf. It's about knowing you can afford it week after week, month after month, without having to choose between protein and paying the electric bill. And let's not forget, nutrition inequality is one of the biggest drivers of health inequality. Low-income communities don't lack food. They lack nutritious food. Fast food chains sprout like weeds because they're cheap, filling, and everywhere. Meanwhile, walk into some urban neighborhoods and try finding affordable lean protein. Good luck. But this food, the one I keep coming back to, cuts through that. It's accessible to almost anyone, regardless of zip code. No marketing spin, no velvet rope. Just raw nutritional power at a price even the most cash-strapped household can handle. And think about the global picture. We've been told that feeding the world requires high-tech solutions, lab-grown meat, genetically modified superfoods, protein powders that can survive on Mars. Meanwhile, the simple, time-tested foods that have sustained civilizations for centuries are sitting right under our noses. They don't just build muscle, they build resilience. They allow populations young and old to maintain strength and metabolic health without bankrupting governments or individuals. Eggs are good, but eggs are fragile. This food is robust, cheap to produce, and easy to distribute. It's not just accessible for you, it's scalable for the world. Now let's bust another myth. Price equals quality. People have been conditioned to think the more you pay, the better the result. That's marketing 101. But biology doesn't play by marketing rules. If a food delivers the essential amino acids your muscles crave, it doesn't matter if it costs $1 or $10. Your body doesn't check the receipt. And in this case, cheaper doesn't just mean good enough. It means better, more leucine per dollar, more bioavailability per serving, and more consistency in delivering results. And accessibility isn't just about cost or supply. It's also about versatility. Eggs are fine, but how many ways can you eat an egg before you're bored? Scrambled, fried, boiled. Eventually it's the same song on repeat. But this food can be folded into soups, stews, salads, even smoothies. You can dress it up, keep it plain, make it sweet, make it savory. It adapts to your culture, your taste buds, and your budget. And that means you're more likely to stick with it, meal after meal, week after week. Because the best diet isn't the one with the fanciest macros, it's the one you can actually maintain. Here's what I tell my patients. Don't let the food industry fool you into thinking health is for the wealthy. Don't let marketing convince you that you need a $70 powder to do what a $2 bag of the right food can do better. Accessibility means democratizing nutrition, making muscle health possible for everyone, not just the ones with gym memberships and disposable income. So when we say this food is cheaper than eggs, it's not just a casual throwaway line, it's a statement of empowerment. It means you don't have to choose between financial survival and physical survival. It means muscle health is no longer a privilege, it's a right. It means the 70-year-old retiree on Social Security, the single mom working 2 jobs, the college student eating on a shoestring, they all have access to the same muscle-building, life-extending nutrition as the guy bench pressing at the fancy gym. And that's the real revolution. Forget luxury health. Forget protein snobbery. Forget the idea that the best fuel for your body has to come with a shiny label or a hefty price tag. Sometimes the cheapest food on the shelf is the one that makes the biggest difference, not just for your wallet, but for your muscles, your metabolism, and your life. We've all been sold a lie. The lie goes like this. As you get older, muscle loss is inevitable. You hit 50, and your body starts sliding downhill. By 60, you're weaker, slower, softer. By 70, you're supposed to shuffle around with a cane and call it just aging. That's not biology. That's conditioning. We've normalized decline because it's profitable. Pharmaceutical companies love it. The supplement industry loves it. And the healthcare system absolutely loves it because weakness keeps you coming back. But here's the truth. Muscle loss with age is not inevitable. It's preventable. It's reversible. And it's absolutely essential to fight back against it, because muscle isn't about vanity, it's about survival. Let's talk about sarcopenia, the clinical name for age-related muscle loss. It's not just about having less bicep to show off at the beach. Sarcopenia affects everything: balance, mobility, metabolism, immunity, even cognition. Lose muscle, and you lose your body's biggest reservoir for glucose. That means higher blood sugar, more insulin resistance, and a fast track to type 2 diabetes. Lose muscle, and you lose your ability to stabilize yourself when you trip, turning a stumble into a hip fracture. Lose muscle, and you lose the mitochondria, the energy engines that keep your brain sharp. Muscle isn't optional, it's the organ of longevity. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think if they just walk a little, maybe lift some light weights, they're covered. Exercise is critical, don't get me wrong, but exercise without protein is like trying to build a house without bricks. You can swing the hammer all you want, but if the materials aren't there, nothing gets built. Older adults, in particular, face a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. Translation: the older you get, the harder it is for your muscles to respond to protein. When you're 20, a modest serving of protein after a workout flips on muscle growth like a light switch. When you're 70, that same portion is barely enough to nudge the dial. So what's the answer? Two things: more protein and better protein. Not just quantity, but quality. And here's where this cheap, overlooked food comes in. It's not just complete in essential amino acids. It's rich in leucine, the amino acid that overrides anabolic resistance. Think of leucine as the foreman at a construction site. Without him, the workers don't know when to start. With him, the crew gets moving. For older adults, leucine is the foreman that keeps muscle construction humming, even when the body wants to shut it down. Now, compare that to eggs. Eggs have protein, sure, but gram for gram, they don't deliver the leucine punch that this other source does. And when you're older, you can't afford to mess around. You need that signal to be loud and clear. Build muscle now. That's why this cheap food beats eggs at their own game. It's like putting a megaphone in your muscle's ear. And let's get practical. I see older patients all the time who tell me they can't afford expensive protein powders, or they don't want to choke down 6 scrambled eggs every morning. Fair enough. Who would? But this food is affordable, palatable, and versatile. You can add it to a shake, stir it into soup, sprinkle it on cereal. It doesn't demand you overhaul your life. And that's crucial, because consistency is the secret weapon. Muscles don't care about what you eat once in a while. They respond to what you feed them every day, week after week, year after year. Now let's debunk another myth: I'm too old to build muscle. Nonsense. There are studies showing that even people in their 80s and 90s can add muscle mass and strength when given the right stimulus. Exercise plus high-quality protein. I've seen patients in wheelchairs regain the ability to walk across a room. I've seen seniors who couldn't open a jar regain grip strength and independence. It doesn't matter if you're 30 or 70, the machinery still works. It just needs the right inputs. And let's zoom out for a second. If we as a society took muscle maintenance seriously, the ripple effects would be enormous. Fewer falls, fewer fractures, fewer nursing home admissions, lower rates of diabetes, obesity, and even dementia. Muscle isn't just about strength, it's about resilience. It's the difference between bouncing back from an illness or spiraling downward, and yet we ignore it. We spend billions treating the consequences instead of pennies on prevention. Think about this. In the US, Medicare spends over $30 billion a year on treating fractures in older adults. $30 billion just for broken bones. If we could keep older adults strong enough to avoid those falls in the first place, imagine how much suffering and money we could save. And the solution isn't exotic. It's not a breakthrough drug. It's not gene therapy. It's a cheap, accessible food that builds muscle faster than eggs, even at 70. So why don't we hear about it? Because There's no profit in telling people the truth. There's no billion-dollar lobby behind this food. There's no marketing campaign telling you it's nature's perfect protein. It doesn't need one. The science speaks for itself. The problem is, science doesn't buy Super Bowl ads. The food industry does. But here's the good news. You don't need permission from the food industry to protect your health. You don't need their powders or their slogans. You just need to know the truth. Muscle is not a young person's game. It's an all-person's game. And the rules don't change with age. Only the urgency does. At 70, muscle isn't about looking good in a swimsuit. It's about standing up from a chair without help. It's about carrying your groceries without pain. It's about staying independent for as long as possible. And the food that makes that possible isn't expensive. It isn't exotic. It's sitting right there on the shelf, waiting for you to choose it. Eggs had their time in the spotlight, but if you want to build muscle at any age, especially as you age, it's time to move on. Muscle is the currency of health, and this food is the cheapest, most effective way to stay wealthy. Metabolism. It's one of those words that gets thrown around like confetti in the diet industry. Slow metabolism, fast metabolism, boosting metabolism. Every fitness ad and supplement company claims to have the magic fix. But here's the reality. Metabolism isn't some mystical force you can manipulate with a magic pill. It's biology, plain and simple. And one of the most powerful levers you have over it isn't a fat-burning supplement or a green tea cleanse. It's muscle. And what builds and sustains muscle? Protein. Not just any protein, but the right kind. Here's the dirty little secret about metabolism. It lives and dies by your lean body mass. Every pound of muscle you carry is like a furnace burning calories, not just when you're moving, but even when you're sitting still. Lose muscle and your furnace shrinks. Keep muscle, or better yet, build it, and your furnace roars. And that makes all the difference, especially as you get older, because, let's face it, age does not slow your metabolism, muscle loss does. And that means the solution isn't to starve yourself or drown in caffeine, it's to feed your muscles with the protein they need to thrive. Now let's talk about why this food, the one that beats eggs hands down, is a metabolic game changer. Protein has the highest thermic effect of all the macronutrients. Translation: your body burns more energy digesting protein than it does carbs or fat. But that's only part of the story. This food isn't just protein. It's high quality, leucine-rich, fast-absorbing protein. That means it doesn't just sit in your gut, it gets into your bloodstream quickly, signals your muscles to get to work, and sets off a cascade of metabolic benefits. Let me give you a picture. Say you're 65. You eat a breakfast of toast and jam. Cheap, easy, comforting. Within an hour, your blood sugar spikes, insulin floods your bloodstream, and your body's in storage mode. Fat storage, to be precise. Now imagine instead, you start your day with this cheap, humble protein source. What happens? The amino acids hit your bloodstream, your muscles wake up, your blood sugar stays steady, and instead of storing, your body starts repairing and burning. One breakfast, two completely different outcomes for your metabolism. And here's where it gets even more interesting. This food doesn't just protect your muscles, it protects your insulin sensitivity. That's the cornerstone of metabolic health. When your muscles are well fed with amino acids, they act like sponges, soaking up glucose from your bloodstream and keeping insulin levels in check. That means less fat storage, lower risk of type 2 diabetes, and more steady energy throughout the day. Eggs can do some of this, sure, but not with the same punch. Eggs don't deliver the leucine density, the rapid absorption, or the affordability that make this food such a powerhouse. And let's talk satiety. Anyone who's ever tried dieting knows the hardest part isn't choosing what to eat, it's fighting hunger 2 hours later. Protein is the antidote to that. It keeps you full longer because it directly signals your brain's satiety centers, telling you you're good, stop eating. Carbs don't do that, fat doesn't do that, protein does, and this food does it better than eggs because it's easier to digest, easier to dose, and easier to incorporate into everyday meals without breaking the bank. For older adults trying to control weight while keeping muscle, that's not just helpful, it's life-saving. Now, let me bust one of the most persistent myths in nutrition, that eating less will fix your metabolism. Wrong. Chronic calorie restriction doesn't boost metabolism, it tanks it. Your body senses famine, slows everything down, and clings to fat like it's gold. The real trick is to feed the system in a way that prioritizes muscle. That means high-quality protein, resistance exercise, and enough total calories to keep your body out of panic mode. And this cheap, overlooked protein source is perfect for that formula. Let's take another angle. Inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the engine behind obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Guess what helps put out the fire? Muscle. Muscles release myokines, tiny chemical messengers that fight inflammation, improve fat metabolism, and even support brain health. But you don't get those myokines without maintaining muscle, and you don't maintain muscle without feeding it properly. This is why older adults who eat diets rich in this protein source show lower markers of inflammation and better metabolic profiles than those who don't. Here's the bottom line. When people think about boosting metabolism, they think about quick fixes, shots of espresso, cayenne pepper drinks, miracle teas. None of that works. What works is building and sustaining muscle. What fuels that process is protein. And not just any protein, high quality, leucine-rich, accessible protein. Eggs aren't bad, but they're not the champion we've been told. This other food is cheaper, more efficient, and more effective at lighting up your metabolism at 30, 50, or 70. And let's not pretend this is just about vanity. A healthy metabolism isn't about fitting into genes. It's about freedom from disease. It's about lowering the risk of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, even dementia. Because metabolic health touches every organ in your body. It determines how well you age, how resilient you are to stress, how quickly you bounce back from illness. And it all starts with the muscle-protein connection. So here's the question: do you want a metabolism that creeps along storing fat and draining energy, or do you want one that hums, burning fuel efficiently, keeping blood sugar steady and powering you through life? If it's the latter, then you don't need gimmicks. You don't need overpriced powders. You don't even need eggs. You need this one cheap, overlooked protein source that does the heavy lifting for your metabolism, no matter your age. Because metabolism isn't luck. It's not something you're born with or stuck with. It's something you can shape, strengthen, and support if you feed it right, and the cheapest food on the shelf might just be the strongest medicine for your metabolic health. If there's one thing the food industry is brilliant at, it's storytelling. They don't sell you nutrients, they sell you a narrative, and the narrative around eggs has been one of the most successful in the history of food marketing. For decades, eggs have been portrayed as the perfect protein, the complete breakfast, the affordable way to fuel your day. And while there's truth in that, they are nutritious, they are versatile. The myth is that they are the best option. That myth has been carefully crafted, sold to you in commercials, reinforced in cookbooks, and now even championed by fitness influencers on social media. But the science tells a more nuanced story, and it's one the egg industry doesn't want you to hear. Let's start with history. Back in the 1950s, eggs were cheap, abundant, and easy to market. The egg industry leaned on the idea of the incredible edible egg and built a campaign around it. They told you eggs had everything you needed: protein, vitamins, minerals, and when the cholesterol scare hit, the industry took a hit, but came back swinging with studies showing that dietary cholesterol doesn't impact blood cholesterol the way we thought. Suddenly, eggs were redeemed, rebranded as a superfood. That redemption arc wasn't just science, it was strategy, it was a marketing miracle, and it worked. But here's the problem. Eggs have never been unique. They're not magical. They're not irreplaceable. They are a decent protein source, yes, but they are not the best, not the cheapest, and certainly not the most efficient for muscle building, especially as you age. Yet the myth persists because the industry behind eggs has money, reach, and motivation. They benefit from keeping eggs on the pedestal. Meanwhile, the food I've been talking about, the cheaper, more effective protein, doesn't have a billion-dollar lobby. It doesn't have slick ads on TV. It doesn't sponsor fitness expos or push recipes through celebrity chefs. Why? Because it doesn't need to. It just sits there on the shelf, quiet and unglamorous, doing its job. But in today's marketplace, quiet doesn't sell. Shiny does. And so the myth flourishes that eggs are the gold standard, when in fact they're just one option among many, and not even the most efficient one. Here's how the marketing myth works. First, you identify a food with just enough science behind it to make claims. Eggs are complete protein, so that part is true. Then you amplify it through repetition, ads, slogans, endorsements, until people believe it's not just true, but the truth. Then you dismiss or downplay competitors. You don't hear ads for beans, lentils, or whey. You don't see TV spots for cottage cheese or soy. Those foods don't have massive trade associations funding ad campaigns. Eggs do. And the industry knows something else. People love simplicity. One perfect food? That's the marketing sweet spot. Never mind that nutrition is complex, that different proteins perform differently in the body, that muscle synthesis depends on more than just total grams. Selling nuance doesn't move product. Selling myths does. Now let's zoom out. This isn't just about eggs. This is the same playbook used for countless foods. Sugar was marketed as quick energy. Soda was marketed as happiness in a can. Breakfast cereals were marketed as essential for kids, even though most were just sugar bombs in a box. And in every case, marketing outpaced science. By the time the truth caught up, the myth had already cemented itself in public consciousness. Eggs are no different. The tragedy here is that people make decisions based on marketing, not biology. A 70-year-old trying to maintain muscle will reach for eggs because they've been told it's the right move. Meanwhile, the cheaper, more effective option goes unnoticed. That's not just a marketing win, that's a public health loss, because every carton of eggs that displaces a better protein source in someone's diet is another missed opportunity to fight muscle loss, insulin resistance, and frailty. And let's not ignore the economic side. Eggs are not as cheap as they used to be. Prices fluctuate wildly, and sometimes they spike to absurd levels. But the myth of eggs as the affordable protein persists. People still repeat it. Eggs are the cheapest way to get protein. Not true anymore. And certainly not true when you compare them gram for gram to this overlooked alternative. The marketing machine doesn't want you to run that math. They want you to accept the story, not question it. Here's the irony. If eggs didn't have a marketing machine, they'd just be another food, nutritious, sure, but not mythologized. You'd eat them sometimes, not because you were told they were the best, but because you like them. And that's fine. The problem isn't eggs themselves. The problem is the pedestal we've put them on and the way that pedestal blocks our view of other, better, more accessible proteins. So what do we do about it? Step one is awareness. Understand that marketing is not science. If a food needs a billion-dollar ad campaign to convince you it's healthy, you should probably be skeptical. Step two is empowerment. Look past the shiny labels and ask the only question that matters. What does this food do for my body? Does it build muscle efficiently? Does it stabilize blood sugar? Does it keep me full without breaking my budget? If the answer is yes, then that's your superfood, no matter how boring or unmarketable it looks on the shelf. The final step is to stop confusing price with value. Eggs cost more than they're worth in terms of muscle building efficiency. This other protein source costs less. and does more. That's value. That's truth. And no marketing myth can change it. So yes, eggs had their moment. They were marketed brilliantly, but marketing doesn't build muscle. Science does. And the science is clear. There's a better, cheaper, more effective way. The only question is whether you'll keep buying the story or start buying the food that actually delivers.